A few weeks ago I posted a video on YouTube about the garden bed that's sitting behind me. In it I talked about how I had used a lasagna mulch to create the soil in the bed. The lasagna mulch creates a really rich foundation for the plants to grow in. And by maximizing the health of your soil, you maximize the health of your plants.
You can see I've already laid down a bunch of cardboard. I've set up my frame out of cinder block, and now I'm putting in a bunch of basically yard waste. I want to build this up fairly high because it's going to disintegrate really rapidly with the heat and all the rain. The higher I can build this bed, the deeper it's going to be when everything's all done. I finished filling the bed frame with organic matter, and the next step is going to be to put the soil on top of it, water it down really well, and then finish it up. Okay, so now it's the next morning. I've put down a layer of just straight topsoil. It doesn't have any real extra organic material in it. It's not covering the yard waste quite as well as I would like, so I'm going to go get some more, and then I'll finish filling up the bed. Here we are back. I've got a bag of topsoil and 2 bags of a compost and cow manure mix, and you can see that the plant material is covered much better now, so we're getting ready to put the final layer on here. The layer of garden soil has been added and it's been smoothed out, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add one more thing to this, and then I'm going to water the whole thing down. So far what we've put in has been a bunch of sticks and twigs like this on the bottom, and leaves and things like that. Then on top of that we put this topsoil and some of the manure and compost. The layer that you're looking at right now is this garden soil. And the last thing I'm going to add is this stuff. This is Man in Overalls Magic Mix. I picked this up at Cultivate on Park Street in Jacksonville. You can also get in touch with the guy himself. Let me see if I got the contact information. And there's his information. If you happen to be in the area of Jacksonville, you can go by Cultivate and pick this up, and it's got a lot of really good stuff in it. I wish I could afford to fill my bed completely with the stuff, but even some is a really good thing, and this bed right here is mostly that magic mix. Okay, now the magic mix is in. It's all spread out nice and even. I'm gonna get some water and water this down, and then we'll be ready to plant. I had mentioned watering in, and so that's what we're doing right here. And the reason that you want to water everything in is, of course, to make sure your soil is nice and moist, but also you want to make sure that there's water all the way down in this thing. Yesterday, when I put in the yard waste and the topsoil, I had watered that as well. And now that I have this top layer on, I'm going to water all of that again. This is going to carry bacteria from the compost down into the yard waste and get it started on decomposing. It'll also establish a good bit of moisture down in that compost layer, down in the yard waste layer, so that begins to act like a big sponge and hold water for the rest of the bed. It's late afternoon, past the heat of the day. It's shaded now in the bed that I'm going to be planting in. I have some sweet potato slips that I'm going to put in. I also have some peppers and a couple of cuttings from tomato. I also have some okra. I'm going to put the okra along the eastern edge of the bed so that it provides a little bit of shade for the rest of the plants. And probably going to be going into my seed stash maybe to find some other stuff that I want to put in. Okay, I wanted to take just a moment and talk about how you get slips. You can see I have a potato here, and what I do is I just stick my potato in some nice soft dirt like this, and then the sprouts will come out. Once the sprouts have formed their own roots, which these are a little young yet, they haven't got the roots, that is what becomes your slip. And then you can just take the slip and bury it in your garden and you have sweet potatoes. Last little bit about sweet potatoes and sweet potato slips. Now I have this little piece of tuber here that it has this piece coming out of it. I also had these two. These two I'm going to put back in potting medium and let them root out so that they become more slips. And this whole piece I'm just going to take and bury. Now, if you have little pieces like this that are kind of too small to eat, if you leave them in your bed from year to year, they will generate more sweet potato plants, and then you don't have to plant anything. They just come up by themselves. Alright, so these are my slips that were allowed to grow out and develop some roots. And so now I'm going to take them and I'm going to put them in the bed. Now if you look at this slip, you'll see it actually has some little roots that are trying to come off of the stem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim off a bunch of these leaves and bury the stem. That will create a lot more of the rooted plant that's growing the potatoes. I've removed most of the leaves now, and I'm going to bury this all the way up to right about here. Okay, so I'm not burying this deep, I'm burying it long so that the stem is going to be just under the soil, and that's going to cause it to send out a bunch of roots and create more of the sweet potatoes along that root. You can see along the stem that there are new branches getting ready to come out at the joints with the leaves. So these little pieces that are coming up here, they're going to be new stems, and they'll break the soil after the plant's buried. I'm going to do the same with this. I'm going to trim off a bunch of these leaves and then bury this long stem long ways so that the plant will develop a lot of roots for the potato. Again, I'm not going to plant it deep. I'm going to plant it long so that those, excuse the cat, so that those new stems are going to come up. And now you can see that out of that stem, only the last few leaves are sticking up. I'll probably just peel this one off too. And it's buried in. Alright, so the sweet potatoes are in. And you notice there's a lot of space around this one here. And that's fine, because remember there's going to be a lot of branches coming up from the length of that thing. Well, I put in some okra and I used this thing as like a spacer. So I would put a seed and then make a dent from the next seed, put in the seed, make a dent from the next seed all the way down. I thought I had recorded it, but nope. So that's how I'm spacing them out, so they're about a foot or so apart. It's been a few days since I finished construction of the bed and planted it out. You can see I have the peppers, I have the sweet potatoes, I've got rooted cuttings from Tiny Tim tomatoes down here. I've got another one at the other end. Some Swiss Chard. had planted the okra, and I marked where the 2 that I had came up. I'm still waiting to see if any more sprout. Looks like we got one. Nope. So haven't seen any more sprout. I might have to come back and plant some more. You notice that I have the mulch down. I don't have it in the places where I'm expecting that I should get some okra coming up. So, waiting for that. And so the bed's all done. I've got this huge drop of chips, and I'm using that to fill in my bed, except where I'm waiting for the okra to come up.